Regenerative medicine. Can the old become young? There's a lot coming out in the scientific literature about this. It's the stuff of science fiction, now science fact. Want to know more? Watch this space. So anyone who watches these videos knows that I concentrate really on two main things. The first thing is how to age healthily. So any new evidence that comes out in the scientific literature about healthy aging, and there's lots. The second topic that I really like to do is really the more science fiction topics, or at least they were science fiction. And that is regenerative medicine. Technologies that are moving along at such an incredible rate that they could really change the way we age fundamentally. And there's been a lot coming out now in the scientific literature, even in the last few weeks. So what I want to do is just clarify these points and update you on what some of these things might be. So the first thing, let's concentrate on that. We are all aging. And the key goal in life for most of us is to age healthily. So that's to avoid the things that kill us, obviously. Things like cancers, dementia, heart disease, all the big killers. So they're the things that we try and reduce the chance of getting through things like exercise, healthy eating, some new therapies that are coming on. And that is what we try and do. With the best diet in the world, with the best nutrition, we will still eventually get old and die. The key is to try and keep active for as long as we possibly can. And that is what I really mean by healthy aging. Sorry about that, I had to turn the camera around, lighting issues. But anyway, to carry on. Unfortunately for us, being alive is such a destructive process. Your body is made up of billions of cells, and every one of the cells in your body is a biochemical hothouse that beggars belief. The best analogy that I've heard that is if you could shrink yourself to the size of an atom and pass into one of your own cells, you would be greeted by this industrial landscape of mind-boggling complexity that would stretch out for miles into the horizon, and we wouldn't have a clue how to understand it or begin to understand it. And this this industrial landscape wouldn't happen in just two dimensions. It would be all around you, and there would be structures the size of houses whizzing around to try and contain all the processes of combustion that happen to keep you alive, all the processes necessary to keep you alive. And there's the problem, is that to produce energy in your cells and to live, to make the proteins and to make everything that we need to be alive is incredibly destructive. And that all those chemical reactions have to be contained, and they produce waste. And it's this waste and this damage that every cell gets throughout its life that really causes the problems. So cells age, they can reproduce and die, but as they do age, they become more inefficient. And as you as an individual become older, to your 60s, 70s, 80s, all this accumulated damage really results in age-related diseases, and we get old. Get across it is just how amazingly complicated it is. So it's against that backdrop that we can age healthily. Yes, we can eat the right things, and it does have an effect. It has an obvious effect, but this is against a background, against immensely complicated biochemistry, and the fundamental consequence of that biochemistry is natural aging, and you can't escape that. But of course, on the positive side, you can do lots of things to age healthily. Chief amongst them is avoiding smoking, avoiding obesity, eating a balanced, nutritious diet, avoiding high blood pressure, all the things that my other videos and the future ones will address. So it's to keep us healthy, functional, and age healthily for as long as we can. So if we love life, why not? So now moving on to the second part. Some of the more eye-catching current research that's been going on that really can make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. So this isn't how to age healthily. The second aspect of that's really blossoming at the moment is regenerative medicine. Who would have thought a few years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, this would have been wacky science. But now there are papers coming out on regenerative medicine in the best scientific journals. That's your Nature, your Science, all the top tier papers are now producing papers not only addressing healthy aging, but actual regenerative medicine. So that's restoring youth. And there are a couple of papers that have been coming out recently that are just mind-boggling. The mechanisms of aging are broadly understood, and some people categorize them into different areas, fundamental areas of aging. And if you want to know more about them, look at one of my previous videos. Here's one thing that I don't think everyone is understanding. All these diseases of old age now, not infectious diseases, but I'm talking about cancers, heart disease, dementias, they're not separate from aging. They are not separate diseases. They are part of aging. So if we avoid a heart attack, we'll probably get dementia if we live long enough. If we avoid dementia, then we'll probably get a stroke. These are entwined with aging. So really, if we ever want to resolve any of these things, truly, we need to understand the basic molecular processes of the aging process. And this is what's amazing, because this is exactly what's being done at the moment. So let's get to the crux. What is some of the data, some of the science that's come out in the last, even in the last few weeks at the time of doing this? There are two papers, two fundamental papers that have appeared in really good journals that are addressing this regenerative medicine, which I never thought I'd be talking about, to be honest, because but it's really happening. And they both have worked on mice. This is work that's done in mice, which is very important. And the reason that mice are important models are because A, they're mammals, and B, they age very quickly. So the idea behind using mice is that because their repair mechanisms are so poor compared to humans, if you can upgrade, regulate and fix mouse metabolism or reduce aging in mice, then it's probably, ironically, going to be easier in humans. One of the problems, or one of the mechanisms that's considered really important in aging, is that old cells stop reproducing but don't really die off, so they just hang around. And when these cells hang around, they've been implicated in many different diseases such as diabetes, coronary heart disease, and even dementia. So these are cells that stop reproducing, they're old, damaged, but they don't die, and they cause an inflammatory response. So it's known that getting rid of these old cells is generally good for health, good for longevity. It reduces inflammations of markers of inflammation. So this research group designed a peptide, or modified a peptide, that basically promoted the death, the self-destruction of these old cells. And what happened was amazing. It basically rejuvenated certain aspects of aged mice. It enabled hair to grow back. They lose their hair as they age. The hair grew back. Kidney function was restored. And they were able to exercise for much longer. So these are all very powerful signs of aging. And the important thing is that they were all reversed. It's one of the first times that this has actually been demonstrated. It's not just healthy aging or slowing down aging. It reversed these parameters. But the caveats to this research, at the moment, they didn't actually assess if it affected how much longer the mice lived. So although all these markers of youthfulness were restored, they didn't publish the data on whether the mice actually lived longer. So that will be coming next. I think the fundamental takeaway message here is this is incredible, that the research is not only limiting or slowing aging, it's actually regenerative. So it makes things better than they were before. And this is already in mice that were old. They weren't young and the aging process was slowed down. These mice were already old, and the characteristics of some of the characteristics of youthfulness were restored. I would like to say, just to finish off all this, we live in amazing times where there are new techniques that are coming online that really enable us to manipulate our genes like never before. And I'll be talking about these sometime in a future video. But we really are on the cusp. Well, I say cusp, it's already happening. We're in the middle or at the beginning of a journey where all these technologies can be applied to really understand aging and regenerative medicine, and it's nice to see it all happening so quickly, even if it doesn't affect us. I mean, it's just interesting for me. I don't really care if it happens or not in my lifetime, but it's just such an amazing time to act as an observer on all this. And I'd just like to finish off by saying advice without evidence is just an opinion, and opinions not worth much.